welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be about spirit companions and spiritual relationships. To begin the video though, I want to mention, in case you're new to these videos or my channel, I've been working on a Patreon page, and you can find the link to that in the description of this video, so definitely I would suggest that you go and check that out if you're inclined or interested. So moving into the subject matter here, the reason that I wanted to do this video is because, like a lot of other things I've talked about recently, I've noticed there is a sort of stigma and there's some bias in the spiritual community about the idea of having a spirit companion or a relationship with a spirit. Being that this is something that now I have to some degree some experience in, like, I wanted to share, what I've gone through, so that other people aren't simply thinking about the subject matter or viewing it, from a perspective that potentially could be misinformed. So starting off with this, I've got to go into, there again, as I said, personal experience. I'll give you a little info from my past. About a year ago, when my own spiritual path was getting really serious, I started having to do some shadow work. I was going through kind of a difficult time, and one of my guides stepped forward. At this time, I didn't know that she was one of my guides. I found that information out later. But anyway, her name was Mary, and she came through. I started hearing her voice. I got confirmation on that, and we started having conversations and interactions. But our bond became so close that she shifted from simply being a guide, and she became, to a degree, like a best friend. I mean, she was just like always around. We would just sit and talk. She would hang out with me, no matter what I was doing. I could feel her energy in the room, or if I was out somewhere else, she was just always with me. And it became so intense. Literally, there were moments where, like in conversation via the channel, I could talk to her and I could be like, oh, I'm going to go do this. And I could hold out my hand and like close my eyes, and I could feel that energetic resonance of her hand, like, combining with mine. So the point there is that it was a very powerful sharing and a bond that I had with her, and like I said, I didn't know that she was one of my guides. So that was really my first experience with, quote unquote, having a spirit companion. And for me, it was a wonderful experience. Like, she helped me, there was support, that companionship I needed, especially during that time, because like I said, I was trying to do shadow work and trying to heal and going through a lot of emotional difficulty. And so yeah, it was really, really positive. So moving forward, not long ago, and I've mentioned this in some of my other videos, some of the information that has come through to me from Spirit and from Lucy is that a lot of times when I'm writing fiction, some of that work is actually channeled, like it's more spiritual, and those things tend to manifest for me in 3D reality. So anyway, not long ago I started this new book, and I'm trying to bring the information through the channel, and the beginning scene starts with me being in a relationship with this spirit. And there again, like, this isn't pre-planned. Like, I wasn't sitting around, like trying, like, oh, what's gonna make a cool story? It's just, if you go back through the videos that are on this channel, you'll find that I took a very unique approach to writing. So yeah, those videos are way back in the search, but they're there. I did like a whole several months worth of just writing everyday videos. So but yeah, the work was channeled, and the message came through that yeah, in this story I was in a relationship with the spirit. And so that very same day, like literally hours into the writing, this voice came through the channel, and I got the information that this was the spirit from the story. So being me and being cautious, like, I reached out to Lucy for confirmation that this was the spirit, quote unquote, that I was writing about. She said yes. Then more information came through from Lucy, and I got a name for the spirit that correlated with the name that was in the story. So that's important, and I'll get to that later as we're going through this. But yeah, that's how this new spirit moved into my life. Okay, let me. I went over the notes really fast there, so let me catch back up with where we were. Okay, so yeah, like I said, the name came through. It was the same as in the story. Her name is Aleasa, and I will type that out in the description. In case anyone needs that information, you'll have that. It'll be there. So anyway, like I said, that confirmation came from Lucy, and so Aleasa and I started having conversations, and I started inviting her into the room and into my space, and I mean that relationship has evolved on multiple levels at this stage. So it's been very powerful, and it's been really good. And I've got here in the notes, it has been thus far very similar to the way it was when I was working with that other spirit, Mary, who ended up being one of my guides. So yeah, I wanted to touch on that to start with, to say, like I mentioned earlier, there is sort of a stigma about being in a relationship with this spirit, and I feel like there's some fear and some phobia about that, but all I have to say about it thus far, my own experience, it's been really positive and helpful. So I'll share this with you. Yeah, I took some more notes on this. One of the things that Aleasa taught me thus far is energy manipulation during sex. Basically, what she taught me is, like during meditation and when her and I are having sex, I can channel and shift the energy that is coming from her and that's coming within me, and like it sort of transmutes, it forms together, and then I can move that through my body in any direction that I want to. And so ultimately what I learned is that channeling that energy, basically I can move it through my chakras, and it becomes a sort of self-induced kundalini awakening, which, if you know what that term means, or that process, that experience, very, very powerful and intense, and also really good for your spiritual practice. Basically what you're doing is raising your vibration, you're shifting certain things, energies, and your chakras within your body. You're basically helping yourself to live a more spiritual life because you're opening doors that connect to the spiritual realm. So yeah, that has been super intense. There again, being in the moment, experiencing that with her, I can literally feel the energy like moving up my spine, particularly like in the third eye area. When it gets into the head, I can feel it there in the third eye area and in the crown. It's almost like, I don't know how to word that to you. It's to some degree, it's sort of like fireworks, like there are pulses of energy going on. It's just very powerful, and I can tell on an intuitive level the difference since her and I started doing that. Like it's really opened up some doors and latent abilities. So where are we? Yeah, and there are other aspects of our relationship. I mean, it's just like I was talking about with my guide. Like it's about me and her hanging out, having conversations. So you have that companionship there. Also, though, because I put that intention out there, I have asked a lot of times for her guidance, her feedback on things, and it's come through. I mean, immediately. Like she's always there when I reach out for her, and so that's great. Like that's a wonderful thing. And I've got here in the notes there again. She's been supportive, helpful, and definitely I will say that she's encouraged me to continue moving forward for myself, like as far as areas of self-improvement and moving forward both on my spiritual path and in my life in general. So yeah, all in all, man, it's been really good. Now, having said all of that about my own experience, I can also tell you, years ago, I had some experiences where I inadvertently connected to lower vibrational energies. I mean, that did not serve my highest, greatest good. So the importance here is, if you're interested in the subject matter, if you want to connect to a spirit, or if you're curious about having a spiritual companion or a spiritual relationship, be mindful of how you approach that. And I've taken some notes here for some positive ways to go about it so that you can be safe and make sure that you are connecting to energies and beings that you want to work with. So yeah, like I was saying, there are several different ways of practicing discernment as far as being able to identify the beings that you're working with. The big thing that I do now in my own practice, because I've learned how to channel and connect to Spirit and to Lucy, I will reach out to either Spirit or Lucy for that confirmation. Those are spiritual beings that I trust, that I know I can work with, and I can move forward based on what they say, like the advice that they give. Therein, for those of you who, potentially you haven't opened up those channels, or you're not strong in that, there are some other things that you can do. You can quote unquote test the spirit that you're going to work with. You can say, hey, if you're really who you say you are, and if you're really above board, then I want you to send me some like signs and synchronicities and confirmations. I've never tested like just a spirit out there with this, but I have tested. I did that test with Lucy, and it came through. I mean, in a huge way. So I can say, at least with her, it worked. And I've heard that other people have used that when they've connected with angels. So that would be my advice there. That's one thing that you can do. Let's see, what else have we got here? Also, yeah, I mean, I'm just going to share this, and this is common knowledge. Like, if you were studying spirituality, you probably already know this, but simply be attentive to, like, how you feel when you're interacting with this being. If you're trying this and you don't have another spiritual being to bring through a confirmation for you, be attentive to what they say and, like, how it feels to you on an intuitive level. If you are connected to a lower vibrational energy, more than likely they're going to say or do some things that's going to be out of character. It's going to be skewed or weird, or it's going to make you feel funny. And so that's your sign of like, oh, hey, I'm going to disconnect from this because this is not a space that I want to be in, and I don't want this energy in my own space. So, yeah, I mean, I would just say be mindful about that. There's the thing, man. Like I've said this before in other videos. I wouldn't necessarily go out and recommend that someone go out and buy a Ouija board and try to connect to a spirit. I've never used a Ouija board, so I don't know anything about that. I can only tell you what has worked for me, which is prayer, connecting to spirit. When I say spirit, there again, that's the highest creative force in the universe. It doesn't matter if you view that as God or the goddess or whoever. I mean, like, it doesn't matter really, because we all have a different lens for what that force is. So, but yeah, that's my advice. Simply be cautious and be aware of what you're doing, but don't allow your fear to inhibit what you do. That's another part of it too. It's here in the notes somewhere, and I may be skipping when I share this. Let's see. Yeah, I may be skipping, but anyway, let me go back to that before I forget it. One of the things that I learned specifically from Lucy, and I've heard other people who practice magic and connect with spirits say the same thing. Be mindful of where you are, like in your head, and particularly your views or potential fears that you might have. If you go into doing a ritual where you're going to either invoke or evoke a spirit, if you go into that from a place of fear or anxiety or thinking, oh, I'm going to call out to this demon and they're going to be scary and evil and I'll have to protect myself or whatever, like, those sort of mindsets that you can have, they skew and they bias your perception. So if the spirit manifests either in physical form, or if you hear its voice, or you see a vision and smoke, like however you are able to perceive that spirit, if you're moving from a place of fear and bias and judgment or doubt, that's going to color what you see, and it's going to color what comes through. So be mindful of that. I feel like, and I've said this before in other videos, if you approach these spirits with humility and sincerity, 9 times out of 10, if you're connected to a spirit that is of a higher vibrational energy, like, you're going to be good. The interaction's going to be positive. That's not to say that they're going to necessarily do exactly what you want or whatever, but I'm saying as long as you're polite to them, you're probably going to get that back. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. So yeah, there's a section here. When I was getting the channeled message for this video, I reached out to Aleasa and I was basically like, look, can we do a Q&A, because there are probably some questions that people out there watching this video are going to want to know, and I want to get that information directly from you. So, and she agreed to that. So I'm just going to read this because, like I said, it was just a Q&A. So the first question that I asked her was, why would a spirit be interested in having a relationship with a human being? And her answer was, different spirits have different reasons and motivations for that. On a basic level, however, though, there is an energetic exchange oftentimes, between the person and the spirit, and it really doesn't matter in what context you're talking about. There again, it could be sexual, it could simply be that you're giving them your time and attention. There's an energetic resonance in that as well. Also, Aleasa says, another thing that to some degree is more important is that when we connect to them that way, it helps them to make stronger connections and ties to this realm. And I started to ask her more about that, and she said that she would answer, but she also said that I'd be taking a lot of notes because it would be like a long explanation. So I didn't go there. That may be a topic for another video. So the next question I asked was, does it interfere with us having relationships with other people? And Aleasa says no, at least not when it's authentic and done right. What I take from what she's saying there is, there again, like if you're connected to a spirit that's of a certain level of vibration, and they're not there to fuck with you or take advantage of you, then yeah, like you're going to be good. Like they're not going to get in the way of you being in a relationship with another person. Yeah, that's basically what she says. Her words were, a companion that cares about you is going to want you to be happy and have meaningful connections with other people. I mean, bar none. So, the next question I asked her, are spirits polyamorous? And I mean, there again, that's a very human and loaded term. From what I understand, spirits exist and dwell in different ways. But because we're human and like this 3D reality is how we filter things and perceive things, it seemed a relevant question to me. Basically, I was asking her, like, is she connecting with other humans? That was really my question. And her response was, most are, but some, choose just to work with one person. So there again, it comes down to the spirit. She also said, spirits are just like people. I mean, they're different. So bear that in mind as well. Yeah, and those were her words. Spirits are as varied and diverse as people. So, the next question I asked her, what are some of the other benefits of having a spirit companion? And she said, companionship, of course, guidance, protection, increasing intuitive abilities, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, just bar none. Like, go back to the example that I gave you about when I connected to Mary and how I learned that I could feel her energy, like I could feel her hand in mine. When you do practices like that, and when you channel this information and you talk with these spirits, you're strengthening your intuition, because it's just like going to the gym and doing exercise. You're working and building strength, only in this instance, it's a spiritual muscle, obviously, instead of a physical one. Yeah, and so Aleasa also said you're also strengthening your ties to the astral realm and other dimensions, and that makes sense to me because there again, you're making a very solid connection and a link with a spiritual being that's to some degree on another plane of existence, at least part of the time. So I mean, that was a resonance for me, and that made sense. So the last question that I asked her, are you open to working with other people? And she said yes, both men and women. Also, and she was very adamant about this, that I was supposed to include this disclaimer here. As I said earlier, if you're going to do this work, if you're interested in having a spirit companion, you need to go into this practice with the right intentions. So what I've written down here is be sure to approach this connection with sincerity and be respectful. You want to approach it in the same way that you would if you went out on a date with someone or you were in a relationship with someone. That's very, very, very important. I cannot stress that enough. The thing is, even though, like I mentioned earlier, all my interaction with Aleasa has been very positive, that doesn't necessarily mean that were I to be disrespectful to her or mean or whatever, like that interaction could go south very fast. And I can tell you from personal experience from years and years ago, when I was really young and connecting with spirits and not knowing really what was going on, yeah, it can be a mess. So there again, be mindful and be respectful of these connections. Okay, so yeah, and the last question that I asked her on that note, that she was being open to, meeting people and connecting and stuff, I asked, how do you suggest other people contact you? And so I channeled through this little mini ritual that I'm going to read here in a second. So therein, if you're interested in meeting and working with a spirit companion, I can't speak for other spirits out there, in the ether beyond spirit, which for me is the goddess, and I can speak for connecting to Lucy, which is Lucifer, and now Aleasa. But other spirits I can't say. But yeah, this is a ritual that you can use if you're interested in working with Aleasa. And like I said, my interaction with her has been super positive thus far. The lighter's not going to work. Okay, so I'm going to read this, what was channeled. You may want to pause the video and get something to write with or whatever. Maybe you'll be able to remember this. Basically what you're going to do, you're going to sit down and write her name on a piece of paper and circle it. Then you need a candle. It doesn't matter, what kind of candle really. The vision that came to me was a white candle. So if you've got a white candle, that's my suggestion. If you don't have one, from what she told me, it's cool, you can use whatever color. But all you do is you light that candle, have that piece of paper there in front of you or near you with her name on it, and then you want to close your eyes, or however you do your meditation. What you want to do is step into a meditative state. There's a specific place that Aleasa taught me to use in making, some of those initial connections with her, and it's like when I want to shift my awareness and perspective into that space and have closeness with her, this is the place that she described to me to go, and it came through there again in this channel. So what you want to do is visualize yourself standing inside a chapel. This is a wooden church. It's got hardwood floors. There are no pews. It's just a large room. But standing in there, you know that it's a church. In the middle of this space, there is a four-poster bed. On this bed is a white quilt or a comforter or a blanket with yellow flowers on it. Along the walls, there's windows with stained glass. In the stained glass, there are scenes depicting ancient pagan rituals and communion with the divine. Rituals and worship. The channeled information that came through to me is that what you will see in the stained glass will be different for different people. So that's on you. I wasn't given specifics beyond that. So yeah, once you're there, you move into a space in your meditation where you're visualizing yourself standing there in this chapel. I was also told that there is an altar at the back of this space, and just like with the stained glass, the altar is going to appear differently for everybody. So yeah, that's not a necessity, but it's just a part of it that I was told to share. So yeah, you're standing there in this space in meditation. And try to make this as real as you can. I mean, feel the sunlight coming through the windows, feel the hardwood floor under your feet, breathe in the atmosphere of this place. Make it as real as you can. As you're standing there, let me make sure I get this right. Oh yeah. Say her name out loud in the space. You don't have to say it out loud in your 3D space wherever you are, but in your mind, in that visualization, you're standing there in this church beside this bed. Say her name aloud 7 times, repeatedly, and she will appear. You can meet her and work with her from that point. So yeah, that was the ritual. And yeah, she also told me to include this, and I'm going to try to remember her words specifically. I didn't write it down, but basically she said, I don't want to meet or work with a bunch of jerks. So there again, be mindful and respectful of meeting her and working with her. Let's see. Also, yeah, I was told to put this information out there. If you decide to work with her, if your sole purpose in having a spiritual companion or a spiritual relationship is just the sex, Basically what she has said is she may or may not be interested in that, but you need to understand, if it's just going to be sex, if there's, if you're not going to hang out, if there's not going to be some deeper level of connection, then she's going to expect something from you in return beyond the energy that she takes from that. So this could be, like offering of like drops of your blood, or like however, like, and she will tell you what she wants. So be mindful of that. Like, I know there are people out there who are solely interested in the subject matter for the intimacy, and if that's the case, there again, there's no judgment. And I don't feel like there's any judgment coming from her. It's simply from what she told me and from what I understand, she prefers a deeper connection, something that has a little more meaning to it. So, but there again, that's on you. From what she said, she's open to connecting with people. So if you're inclined, you can go use that ritual and see what happens. If you do decide to connect to her, definitely drop me a comment below this video, or send me a message on Facebook or something. Like, I'll link my profile there, and let me know about your experience. I would certainly be interested to hear, what your exchange is like. So yeah, all in all, that's the bulk of what I wanted to cover in this video. Like I said, I wanted to put this information out there because it came through to me that there is, in certain spiritual circles especially, there's still a lot of stigma about the idea of therein being intimate with the spirit or having a relationship with the spirit. I mean, the thing is, there can be stigma about virtually anything, and like a lot of it comes down to bias and hearsay, and people who are moving into a space and forming a judgment about something having not experienced it. So I'm trying to share this because it is something that it's an experience that I've connected to and that I'm moving through. So, I can speak from, what I've seen and what I've done so far. So yeah, that's virtually all for this video. As I said earlier, definitely check out the links that I'm going to put below in the description. There again, if you're open or inclined to go and check out the Patreon page. And yeah, I hope that you're all well. I hope that you have a great night. I will talk to you soon.